Hello and welcome to the FMCC's World FM Day celebration virtual conference. I'm Joshua Amos, and today our presentation is Start with a Spark, Motivating Employees by Stephen Brown. Next slide, please. I do want to let everyone know they have been muted for audio quality. If you do have any questions during the presentation, feel free and type them into the question box, and we'll review them during the Q&A portion of the webinar. Also, if you would like a PDF of the PowerPoint, feel free to go over to the control panel under Handout, expand that box, and you can download a PDF copy right now. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. The FMCC does provide many services to the FM community, such as Ask the Expert, Find a Consultant, Locate a Speaker, and online educational resources. You may find more information at their website, fmcc.ifma.org. Next slide, please. And as always, we would like to thank our sponsors. Next slide. And like I said, this is in celebration of World FM Day. So we do want to thank all of you FMs out there, and also Stephen helping to put the world into World FM Day, being from the Cayman Islands today. Next slide. And next slide. And also I do want to make one point that if you've missed any of the webinars today, they will be archived on the FMCC website, at fmcc.ifma.org, and they do put it on their YouTube channel as well. So feel free and go back and access those at any time, and also any previous FMCC webinars. And this map that we're showing today just shows where all the presenters are today. So we do have a great international appeal. Next slide. And these are the great speakers that have put in their time and effort to give us presentations today, as well as the moderators. Next slide. Okay, that's me, your moderator, Joshua Amos, Component Liaison here at IFMA, and our presenter is Stephen Brown. Next slide. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Stephen.
Good day to everyone, and thank you for joining. The learning objectives were presented in the registration. I'm not going to review those, but we'll go over them at the end of the program just to confirm that I've covered what I said we would. Give a quick background. I've got about 20 years managing the built environment, and then I set up the consulting and training business, FM-adviso Limited. Got a global client base, and you can see some of the activities for which I provide support and service and advice to those clients. I am qualified as a trainer by IFMA and by Disaster Recovery Institute International for their credentials programs, and have a number of proprietary programs as well. I am adjunct faculty for the University College of the Cayman Islands, and I serve on IFMA's International Credentials Commission and with this Facility Management Consultants Council. Finally, FM-adviso is a partner with the Global Facility Management Alliance. We've all discovered ourselves in a situation where we have employees who are underperforming. They're not realizing their potential. They're not adding value to the FM organizations nor to the larger organization that we support. This can be very frustrating. We want those employees to show initiative and ambition. We want to see more energy so we don't have to push for every little incremental action and improvement. What we want seems reasonable, so why is it so challenging? You're viewing a repeat of the slide that was displayed before the session began. It's a presentation of the 4 stages of motivation. Beginning, it's action because one is forced to do it. It evolves into taking action because someone understands it's the correct thing to do. Then it evolves into action taken because it's what one wants to do. And finally, the ultimate goal is responding out of habit. That is what comes naturally. I want to start today with simple poll. The question is, have you experienced motivation gaps with your employees? On your control panel, you can select yes or no. The facilitator is going to compile the results. I'm going to hazard a guess and say that the big majority are going to answer to the affirmative. After all,
and you're correct. It's 100% yes.
Yeah, expected. After all, we're dealing with human beings, persons who have moods and persons who sometimes resist doing what we want them to do. But sometimes maybe our instructions aren't clear. The origination of the problem can vary. I'll continue with another question. Do you ever get challenged by the action or the inaction of your employees? Of course you do. So how do you respond? It's common that we have 4 responses that come out of our lives. One, we can get frustrated and just decide I'll do it myself. Or we may get annoyed and think of the employee as being lazy. I recall wondering if I needed to light a fire under someone just to get them moving. Or we can concede defeat and look for somebody else that can take on the action. Or we might wonder who hired these people that they seem so incapable to think on their own. Or we can look inward and we can find out what it is about ourselves and about the dynamics of our team that gives these results. Aspects of motivation is the focus I'm going to be reviewing for the next 40 minutes. I mentioned that I'm the principal of the consulting and training company FM-adviso, and before setting up the business, I came up through the ranks of facility management, from manager to director to AVP, and I worked for a diverse mix of organizations in the corporate, academic, and government settings, and locations in the U.S., in the Caribbean, in Europe, and in the Middle East. My FM operations varied from 25 up to 2,800 persons. But there are consistencies in what motivates employees. Early in my career, I had the benefit of an excellent mentor. This wise person helped me to a greater understanding about the sources of employee attitudes. A person that taught me to consider that it takes a variety of personalities and skills to make up the team, and was definitely one of the better lessons I learned. With a huge number of persons who inhabit the earth, there are a myriad of cultures, languages, attitudes, and other significant differences that cause us to respond in different ways to the stimuli. But there are common traits in human nature, and we're going to review some of those today. A few moments ago, I referenced a colloquialism from the southern United States about lighting a fire under someone to get them moving. Of course, we wouldn't actually take such an extreme action. It's just a way to verbalize the frustration or to describe an effort to force them toward a desired result. But I'm going to use that phrase to source my topic title, Start with a Spark. And it's a review of concepts that will help you motivate employees. You've probably heard the old saying that leaders are made, not born. I've even heard it said leaders are born, not made. But regardless, the statement arises from sociologists debating the concepts of nurture versus nature to define what shapes us as human beings, how we come to mature, how we appreciate how to act, and what it is that causes us to behave in certain ways. This slide displays the motivational attitudes that researchers had assigned to the concepts. The nature idea focuses on genetics, whilst nurture promotes the notion of environment and learning. Later research concluded that both of them apply almost in equal terms. Genetics was calculated at 49%, environmental at 51%. A research group at VU University of Amsterdam concluded that environmental factors played a larger role for social values. Genetic factors did, however, have an influence, though at times small, in all of the traits. So we move to the thought of motivation. The quote by Stephen Covey that's displayed is key to my presentation. Motivation is what pushes us to achieve our goals, to feel more fulfilled and improve the overall quality of life, but it needs to originate from within. Daniel Goleman, the author of several seminal books on emotional intelligence, identified 4 elements that make up motivation. Personal drive to achieve, the desire to improve or to meet certain standards. Commitment to personal or to organizational goals. Initiative, which he defined as readiness to act on opportunities. And finally, optimism, the ability to keep going and pursue goals even in the face of setbacks. As we consider those 4 elements, we can ponder. We can start to identify ways that we as leaders, and that includes supervisors, managers, directors, etc., how we can influence changes in our people. This applies to everyone who has some sway, some power, some means to cause another person to take an action. Most persons who have completed a university degree have studied some of the theories that apply. We'll do a quick review. You can cause change to occur by using your power. Position power includes the formal authority, reward, coercion, the process power, the power from information or being a representative. And the personal power is that you are an expert. You are the party to whom people refer. You are able to deliver rational persuasion and build coalition. So let's pause a moment for another poll. Of the 3 factors that are displayed, money, recognition, and responsibility, which do you see as the prime motivation factor? While we wait the responses to come in and be tallied, I want to return to that previous slide and make an observation. As one considers these 10 power characteristics, it's common that your mind will recognize a common thread, almost a synonym. Aretha Franklin sang about it, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. It's respect for the person in a high position, for the person who has the knowledge or the information. Respect for the person who has the control, or who is the expert, the one who makes compelling positions. I think we have a result.
Stephen.
No.
Yep, the results are money is 40%, responsibility is 40%, and recognition was 20%.
Interesting responses. Thank you for that. Let's consider why these responses were cited. We're going to commence with a quick review of the motivation and leadership theories. In the 1960s, Douglas McGregor from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology published a study of contrasting concepts known as Theory X and Theory Y. According to the models, the 2 opposing sets of general assumptions of how workers are motivated form the basis for 2 different managerial styles. Theory X proposes that the average person dislikes and will avoid work, that overcoming that attitude requires coercion and control and the carrot and stick threat. The average person values security over responsibility and wants to be directed. It includes the notion that there are few persons with initiative. Theory Y, on the other hand, proposes that physical and mental effort is natural, just the same as rest and recreation. Leadership and influence are more effective, and that given the proper environment, a person will seek responsibility The notion is that imaginative solutions are common in the population. So theory X is stressing the importance of strict supervision, external rewards and penalties, and theory Y is talking about the motivating role of job satisfaction and encouraging workers to approach tasks without the direct supervision. Abraham Maslow was an American psychologist who is credited with creating the hierarchy of needs, a theory of psychological health that's predicated on fulfilling innate human needs in priority and culminating in self-actualization. It was his position that a person must fulfill a lower tier before advancing or climbing to the next, and that no tier can be skipped over. As an example, we can consider a worker in a middle tier. That person is not likely to be concerned about aspects of accomplishment until they feel that they belong to the team or to the organization. Herzberg's dual factory theory sometimes is referred to as motivation hygiene theory. According to Herzberg, people are not content with the satisfaction of lower order needs at work. For example, those needs associated with minimum salary levels or safe working conditions. Instead, individuals look for the gratification of higher level psychological needs having to do with achievement, recognition, responsibility, advancement, and even the nature of the work itself. This concept aligns with Maslow's theory of the need hierarchy. However, Herzberg added a new dimension. It's based on the notion that the presence of one set of job characteristics or incentives leads to worker satisfaction at work, while another and separate set of job characteristics leads to dissatisfaction at work. Satisfaction is depending on the motivating factors, challenge and achievement, recognition and personal growth, and dissatisfaction comes from the hygiene, the pay, the job security, working conditions, and the relationships with coworkers and with their supervisor. Many of us have taken a MYERS-Briggs type indicator. It's based on the theory proposed by Carl Jung, who had speculated that there are 4 principal psychological functions in which humans experience the world: sensation, intuition, feeling, and thinking, and that one of these 4 functions is dominant for a person most of the time. Where attention is focused is calculated against extroversion or introversion. How information is received is factored by either sensing or intuition. The basis for decision is either from thinking or feeling. And how one deals with the world is based on judgment or perception. The combination of those 4 dimensions equals 16 personality types. I'm not going to review all of them, but I will share within this theory is the idea that knowing and understanding and valuing permits the leader to provide the most positive work environment. Although the test is popular in the business sector, the MBTI exhibits deficiencies, notably including poor validity. That is, it's not measuring what it purports to measure, and poor reliability. Often, it will give different results for the same person on different occasions. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, the situational leadership theory was presented. The Hersey-Blanchard situational leadership model rests on 2 fundamental concepts: leadership style and the individual or the group's maturity level. For the leaders, the categories are directing, coaching, supporting, or delegating. For the employee, the categories are persons of low competence and high commitment, some competence but low commitment, moderate competence and variable commitment, and finally high competence and high commitment. The concept proposes that the leader must change and adapt to the situation in order to get the task completed and to develop the employee. In the 1990s, the contingency theory came to light. In summary, it indicates that there's no best way to lead, but that leadership is about understanding the effect of decisions. The focus shifted to the concern with the effectiveness of the leader in an organization. In the mid-1990s, Fred Fiedler's concept was further developed to state that group performance depends on the combination of situational favorableness and leadership style. Recall the position power, the personal influence, the task structure. So now you're wondering, what has all this got to do with the spark? Each of the theories and concepts that were reviewed provides real value in you having some knowledge and awareness. You are likely to find some detail in them to help. But truly, it's about self-awareness. Recall that earlier slide that displayed 7.4 billion persons on Earth, and they're all very, very different. But a billion of anything is very large for a person to grasp, so let's make it more personal. Consider statistically the average person will interact with 80,000 persons in their lifetime. But the persons they actually come to know by name or can recognize personally is only about 600. At any given time, the average person only knows somewhere between 15 and 25 persons that we can consider they know them well. Therefore, we can presume that it's hardly reasonable that you should know every employee well enough to learn the details that will motivate each of those employees in your area of responsibility. The real premise of this presentation is that you have the source of the flame inside of you as the leader. While there is no best way to manage or lead for all contingencies, your goal should be to inspire, to influence decisions, and to change attitudes. Understanding the diversity and the details that change minds is key to better leadership. And improved leadership results in motivating your entire team to higher performance. Take a personal inventory of what leadership means. Consider a leader that you respect. From where do the positive feelings rise? How can you cause these feelings to repeat in your life? Take stock of your leadership skills and start with basics. Set an example with standards and rules. Show respect at all times. Keep your word and honor agreements. Be someone that people want to work with. When we speak the notion of inspiring and influencing, you want to show self-respect and respect for others without bias, to listen, understand, reflect, to be open to influence, to empathize, to collaborate rather than making arbitrary decisions, to be consistent and fair and exceed expectations, to demonstrate full understanding of what is the right thing to do and to do it, even if it takes personal sacrifice. To give credit and take blame always, and to demonstrate your belief in others. Assuming that you're in agreement and that you've decided that you want to have a more positive change in your leadership, let's look at some actions. The first is to involve your team members. Involve them for continuous improvement, for planning, for goal setting, and performance monitoring. Delegate. Give them responsibility and accountability for planning and executing an activity. Empower them. Give them the right to make a decision. I will make this caveat that you as the leader must have a clear understanding of the delegation and empowerment processes, because if they're not executed properly, there can be negative consequences. At the same time, remember that delegation and empowerment does not mean that you are absolved of the ultimate charge. You are still the leader, and you will be held accountable if the results are diminished. At the end of the day, you'll still want to employ rewards to recognize accomplishments. There are different kinds of rewards, identified as intrinsic and extrinsic. In the simplest form, intrinsic is about love and desire. It's because we want to. Extrinsic relates to money or items of value, and it's because we have to. A more detailed definition, intrinsic is to perform an action based on an expected or perceived satisfaction of performing the action or task and doing it well. Intrinsic motivators include having fun, being interested, the personal challenge. Also to be considered is the idea of having flexibility with your time for your interests. Extrinsic is to perform an action or a task to get a reward. And that can be money, bonus, power, good grades. It is not theoretical mathematics, but 1 + 1 can equal 2 or more. If you combine your leadership with rewards, then there's a synergy to give greater results. Recall that earlier slide on involvement, delegation, and empowerment. These activities can develop some very strong ties within the work units or teams. Very often these teams can become more close-knit and more effective when they're recognized as a cohesive unit as compared to you only recognizing a top performer or a team lead. On a number of occasions, I've witnessed a group of 10 to 15 persons increase their deliverables significantly because they had a jacket or a cap or a lapel pin or something similar that identified themselves as part of the team. A cohesive team and an inexpensive reward can deliver a huge output. An extrinsic can be hugely effective with low costs. Things like lapel pins, ribbons, coins, and a recognition, a tea and cookies, or a session to develop the team all contribute and pay dividends. There's also a spark from obligation. Some tasks have neither intrinsic nor extrinsic motivators, and the obvious conclusion is that we would be unlikely to do it because it would be pointless. But we all know it doesn't work like that. And that's where the further up issue comes in, the feeling obligation. The caution about using obligation is you don't want to make persons feel guilty if they don't take an action. You want to encourage, but you're cautioned not to take obligation too far. Obligation motivators are not necessarily intrinsic or extrinsic, but can still be very powerful. Obligation comes from a person's own ethics and their sense of duty, and what is right and what is wrong. As an example, you may feel obliged to go to a party because you were invited by someone you know and like. It is affected by group dynamics, intergroup dynamics, decisions, communication. A few more suggestions I want to share today. It's important to keep track of what you want to achieve and stay motivated to do so. To keep your motivation levels up, learn and acquire knowledge. Be the sponge. Read, study, talk to people, absorb the knowledge, because knowledge and information are key for feeding your mind and helping you keep others curious. Keep the company of enthusiastic people. Avoid the negative Nelly, as they say, and seek out well-motivated people. It's a lot easier for you to be motivated or for others to be motivated if the persons around them are motivated and enthusiastic. Stay positive. With a positive attitude, you can see problems as setbacks, as learning opportunities. Know your strengths and weaknesses. Set a plan to overcome the weaknesses and then make sure that you're building on your strengths. Don't delay. Be agile. Take a decision and act on it. Eliminate procrastination. You want to assess the risks, but you must keep working toward the goals. Measure, audit, monitor. Be able to recognize the progress made, even if it's incremental. And above all, share the credit when it goes well and accept blame when it does not. Don't be afraid to ask others for help, and don't hesitate to help if you can. But be mindful that you don't take over. Query to find out if they want suggestions or assistance. Some people want to apply their efforts to find the solution, to understand the issue. They don't necessarily want your answer. Remember that the goal is excellence, not perfection. We all make mistakes and we want to learn from them, and it's very important that we overcome the errors and we avoid repeated errors or faults or failures, because it can cause a loss of credibility. Success is contagious, and it results in personal growth from self-satisfaction. Seeing other people succeed will help motivate repeated positive behaviors. We've covered a good deal of information in a short period of time. I want to touch on 5 touch points. You will grow your skills as a leader if you keep in mind the following. Appreciate those 4 stages of motivation. Number 2, review and understand the psychologist evolution of personal motivation factors, because you will find value in the awareness of each of them. The 3rd, reflect on your participation and how you can propel continuous improvement. Number 4, share your power. And number 5, use the options that I mentioned to grow your leadership skills. The presentation was put forth today with 4 learning objectives. Number 1, review the various aspects of management and motivation and how emotional intelligence factors into the employee outlook. The slide displays what we covered. We can tick that box. Number 2, understanding the core leadership elements and aspects that stimulate employees who want to expand their participation and performance. Well, the presentation rotated the focus to you as the leader and your skills. There are 2 key points presented here. I think we can tick the box. Number 3, awareness of ideas that prompt individuals, including yourself, to embrace and to desire initiative. Some of the elements are displayed here. And number 4, discovery of the influence and the various options of reward and recognition to drive attitudes and realize positive changes. I don't know anyone so wealthy that they don't want more money. But you must remember as the leader that there are excellent options for the reward component. Remember, the 1 + 1 can equal more than 2. So the combination of teaming and lesser rewards can definitely result in exceptional performance. I hope the presentation has provided you information that you may not have previously considered. Or maybe it's triggered some thoughts, or at least given you something to ponder. But I'm going to close with 3 recommendations. The spark is within you. Focus on your leadership abilities. Learn to engage and to delegate. Make delegating a habit. And number 3, use your power to recognize contributions and find ways to reward performance. I'm happy to entertain any questions you might have. You can insert them in the chat box on your control panel. I will share that if I don't have an answer, I will find it and I will revert. And while the questions are being submitted, I will point out that this slide presents contact information for myself and the business FM-adviso.
Great. We do have a question already. It says, how do leaders approach recovery from their own or others' errors, mistakes, and omissions, such as such opportunities can be painful?
Absolutely they can. And that's where a leader must find a way to do a debrief within their own selves and even to call on others for help to understand where the failure originated and how to identify where it took the wrong turn or what wrong decision was taken and to grow from it. It takes an internal strength, and each individual has to reach inside themselves basically to find that and to press forward. The individuals, in my opinion, the individuals who are always looking to motivate and propel their employees are the stronger leaders. And these are the individuals that can find the way to rise above.
Great, thank you. And we'll give it just another moment while we wait and see if there's any other questions. Is there another slide? I think we'll kind of go through some of these other slides while we're waiting to see if any other questions come through.
Okay. Did want to offer my sincere appreciation for persons tuning in and participating. And I will flip it to Joshua.
There we go. And we do just want to bring attention to FMCC does offer a scholarship in honor and memory of Kit Tuvison. The nominations are to be submitted by August 19th by 11:59 Central Time. Please make sure you can go to the FMCC website and we'll see what the qualifications are about that. Next slide. Okay, and IFMA's FMCC STAG was always looking for volunteers. If you would like to partake, Stephen has been on that STAG team, and so we would love for you to volunteer. Just reach out to Gay Tuttle at gaytuttle, GAYTUTTLE.CFM@gmail.com. Next slide. And again, they're just wanting to help continue to promote World FM Day. And these are different hashtags, etc., that you can use. And also, it looks like someone's going to be doing a Periscope as well. Next slide. Okay, and we just want to bring attention to the remaining, the remaining sessions left for today's big 31-hour conference today. And if you have not ever heard Michael Thurio speak, he always does an excellent job. And you know Tina Schaus, Mark Sakula, Rich Finelli, they always do a great presentation as well. So I do encourage you to attend that one as well. Unfortunately, session 15 is canceled, so that one will not be taking place. Next slide. And again, the FMCC does like to let everyone be aware of all of the councils that are out there, and if you can use them as resources. Next slide. And there we go. Like Stephen said, I just want to thank everyone for attending. And Stephen, I want to thank you for a great presentation.
Thank you, Joshua. My pleasure.
You're welcome. And absolutely. Have a great World FM Day, everybody.